Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on
WYDC
TV Big Fox. There we go. I think we are live and ready to go. I apologize for that little technical glitch I'm working on. It was a timer type thing. And so I had to patiently wait, just like you, and I appreciate you waiting. This is Frankly Speaking. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And boy, do we have a lot to cover on the program this morning. We are going to talk quickly about Mayor Eric Adams out of New York City, because that is national news implications. We'll be talking about that breaking news. Also, the House has avoided a shutdown. We'll get into that, as well as, of course, the presidential race. There we go. Got a lot of waves coming in while you patiently waited. Thank you so much. I think we are good, up and running, it looks like. A comment from yesterday's program. Up early, have you talked about this Proposition 1 that is on the November ballot? There's a meeting October the 8th at 6 p.m. at the American Legion in Corning. We talked about this pretty extensively a few weeks ago, because people were asking me about it, and we went through and read the legalese language on Prop 1, where you basically, if it boils down to Republicans are a vote no on Proposition 1, Democrats are a vote yes. Now, that doesn't mean I've just made up any kind of decision for you on what you vote for. I think you should attend this meeting. That's just kind of getting it down to the brass tacks without rereading all that legal language. So we will dive into that even more as we near the election, because, as you know, this is your home for the information that you need to make the most informed decision going into November 5th, or if you early vote. So we will talk about it extensively on future shows, as we'll also have candidates running for office like we already have. And I'll give you some of those announcements later on. But first, Eric Adams has become the first sitting New York City mayor indicted in history in this historic, federal probe. Now, he says it's the feds persecuting him over the migrant crisis. But he has been indicted. Mayor Eric Adams out of New York City has been indicted by a grand jury on charges connected to a federal probe, as the defiant mayor claimed he was being persecuted by the federal government for speaking out about the city's migrant crisis. The historic indictment, the first for a sitting New York City mayor. Think of that. That is historic. You think of some of the past mayors of New York City. This is the first time a mayor has been indicted. It is expected to be unsealed today. We'll have more information today by U.S. Attorney Damian Williams. Now, this was first reported on by the New York Times. Adams will surrender to authorities early next week. Details about the exact accusation remained unclear, but are believed to be connected with allegations of the Turkish government illegally funneling money into the mayoral campaign in exchange for approval of the Turkish consulate in Manhattan. That's according to sources. They also said the city, with the mayor, is facing a charge of acting as an unregistered foreign agent after accepting donations from foreign entities. So that's a national news story this morning coming out of New York City. It's interesting to see who has been calling for him to resign. Perhaps the most famous name on that list, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, representative from New York. She called for Adams to resign amid the federal probes crippling his administration. I do not see how Mayor Adams can continue governing New York City, she wrote. The flood of resignations and vacancies are threatening government function. Nonstop investigations will make it impossible to recruit and retain a qualified administration. Now, there's a whole laundry list of people calling for him to resign. It's actually about a 6-page document here. We're not going to go through all the names because it's New York City centric. It's also some mayoral candidates, but 3 names that are noticeably absent from that list. Governor Hochul, who would get to pick his replacement. Governor Hochul has not commented. Senator Schumer nor Senator Gillibrand have commented either. Kind of important to take note of that. Now, what does this mean? When we come back from the break, this pushes Cuomo, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, pushes him a little further to potentially run for mayor. We've talked about that in the past, that he's not happy with just mayor. He wants to be governor again, or something maybe even further. But indications are that he may well indeed run for New York City Mayor. We'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. This is, frankly speaking, just getting started. Stay with us. I apologize. We're having a couple weird technical glitches. Luckily, our engineer is in town, and we'll make sure to speak with him about exactly what would be causing it, because the commercials are clearly there, and the program is not playing it. So a couple quick glitches this morning. Hey, it's always fun on a Thursday morning to troubleshoot live on the air. We asked the question, is Governor Cuomo going to run for New York City mayor? Former Governor Andrew Cuomo took the pulpit at Bedford Central Presbyterian Church just over the weekend and really exonerated his fellow progressives, saying what the two dumbest, or some term like that, dumbest terms or term ever used was defund the police. So does this indictment of Mayor Eric Adams out of New York City have implications for Governor Cuomo finally making that decision to put his hat in the race? His recent appearances and media appearances, and, well, he had that congressional hearing, which we're going to talk about in just a moment. Sorry, I'm staring over here to the side. I'm waiting for something to click. Rumors that Cuomo is mulling an electoral comeback have circulated in the New York political sphere for the better part of a year. He has neither sought nor held elected office since he resigned the governorship in disgrace in August of 2021, following nearly a dozen accusations of sexual harassment, which he strongly denies. We know all of that. But if you've noticed, some of his former aides signaling that he is indeed interested in this mayoral run. And there's already candidates in the race. Adding fuel to the rumor fire are reports that he commissioned polls asking voters to rate him against other declared or likely mayoral candidates, and the fact that he has nearly $8 million collecting dust in this state campaign account, which may not be easy for him to use in a city race. It's not easy to use. It's forbidden to be used because you're talking about state and mayoral. But the conventional wisdom among political insiders has continued to be that Cuomo would only jump into the mayor's race if Adam bows out, either due to him stepping down and triggering a special election or deciding not to run for re-election. Former Governor David Paterson, who preceded Cuomo in the governor's mansion, echoed that sentiment in an interview, saying, I don't think he would get in while Mayor Adams is still there. I just don't think he would do that. If Mayor Adam leaves, then that's totally a different story. Now, this comes off the heels of that hearing in Washington with the former governor. Now we're learning, and this is being reported on by the New York Post, that he inappropriately influenced a witness in text messages, kind of putting out the... let me tell you exactly what happened without speculating. This was breaking news mid-afternoon, probably yesterday. Governor Cuomo tried to inappropriately influence a top aide's testimony during a congressional investigation into his administration's disastrous mandate that forced COVID-19 patients into nursing homes. Now, I'll ask the question to you this morning. Do you think former Governor Cuomo would win mayor of New York City? I believe he probably would. Even with the scandals, even with his lack of empathy, as we saw in Washington, as he I guess, defended, in a way, what happened in nursing homes, that disastrous, tragic edict coming from the governor that led to so many unnecessary deaths. Witness Jim Meltross said that the ex-governor made him uncomfortable by calling and texting him as the House Select Subcommittee on the coronavirus pandemic probed the March 25th, 2020 must-admit order for nursing homes, meaning you must admit patients that have COVID. The House COVID panel revealed in a memo earlier this month that Cuomo had reached out to Meltris to, quote, check in at least once during the course of their investigation. But in an addendum to that memo released just yesterday, text messages and a letter from Meltris shows Cuomo reached out to his ex-aide 3 times since early 2021 and always, quote, within 48 hours of the select subcommittee taking a specific action in its nursing home investigation. This includes one action that was not public and only known by Mr. Cuomo and his counsel. The evidence in this memo supports the finding that former Governor Andrew Cuomo acted in a manner consistent with an attempt to inappropriately influence the testimony of a witness and obstruct the select subcommittee's investigation. And they actually have the text messages at the New York Post. Now, we're not going to focus on this all morning, but these are 2 major stories. You've got the indictment of Mayor Adams and what that means, what the implications are for a potential run by the ex-governor. Do you think the ex-governor, Governor Cuomo, will run for that position? And now we learn that he inappropriately influenced a witness before that COVID probe. It's not, as one viewer here says, why can't he see it's time for him to stay out of politics? It's something about that power. Listen, let's face it. He wanted to do what his father couldn't do, wouldn't do, or at least pick the wrong time frame, which was run for president. He wanted, and if you recall, he was running for president. I can't remember what year it was, polling under 1%, but still kind of testing the water. And then when COVID hit, and he's giving his daily briefings and became a superstar of the Hollywood elite and the media elite, there was even talks then of Biden, because of age issues, it's convenient when they bring that up and don't bring that up, asking Biden to perhaps consider stepping aside and letting Cuomo run for president against Trump. And there was talks about the New York City, or the New York tough guy attitude going against each other. But as this viewer says, I'm thinking it's going to be impossible for Cuomo to sweep the nursing home mistake aside. Yeah, because it's worse than a mistake. I mean, it's now involving cover-up, scandal after scandal. He just will not, and history's shown this for his whole administration. He cannot admit when he makes a mistake. He's a notorious micromanager, as was brought up over and over again in that hearing, but also not ever able to admit when he's wrong. So this is one that I think I could still see him winning mayor, but if he ever tried to run for governor again or some type of higher office, I believe that would be somewhat of a breaking point. I think that some people, that would be a bridge too far, because once you learn of the specifics of it, and the heartbreaking nature of it, that's why Janice Dean at Fox and so many others have been outspoken on it. When you learn about it, because the media never covered it fully as if they should, as they should have, it's just heartbreaking, and it's such a wrong-headed decision that I don't know how he overcomes that. Having said that, I think the mayor, a different scenario. Look, for instance, if you recall, Del Rosa, one of his aides, Cuomo's aides, it was asked whether if she ran for office, an unnamed office in New York State, would you vote for her? And it was overwhelming yes in New York State. Sight unseen what position, really even knowing her position, so you can, of course, speculate, being Cuomo's right-hand person, what that would look like. But again, New York is a different sort of politics, body politics, and that's why I have admitted to being jaded when you start to see members of the Republican Party say that maybe Trump could win New York State. I don't see that scenario. But again, it just goes to show you the kind of the weirdness of New York State politics. Now, we do have a few international stories that I want to get to. As I said, the government shutdown has been averted. We'll dive into that. We'll also take a look at Harris's first one-on-one interview, as predicted here on the program, on MSNBC. So not really surprised. Not fully answering how she plans to pay for some of these policies she's put forward. So some of these plans she put forward, we'll talk about that as well. A couple things here about Trump. A lot to cover. So stay with us. Hopefully, we're back up and running. Let's see. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Great drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, this may be your last chance to get Angel View at this low price. There is a strict limit of 2 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Order now.
Call 1-800-869-5346. That's 1-800-869-5346. Or visit getangelview.com. So call 1-800-869-5346 now.
Should be electric today.
This is what we do!
Sensational.
Big Noon Kickoff, Saturdays on Fox.
Due to Fox Sports Tonight, Big Fox News at 10 will be aired on our sister station, WJKP.
Here's Hell's Kitchen, head chefs only.
Get ready for heads to roll.
Come on! Get out!
Tonight.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. A couple of comments from viewers. It's never going to end with the left and the mainstream media attacks trying to make Trump fail at every turn. Thank you. Another comment for this from Ken. The Democrats are sending the following message to their rank and file. We expect all Democrats, even down to the office of mayor, to stand behind the Democrat Party's policies, especially the policy to flood the country with future voters. And if you don't, we will damage or eliminate you with lawfare. And Eric Adams, Mayor Adams out of New York City, saying not quite that in that term with loading the country with future voters, but saying that he is being persecuted because he was exposing the migrant crisis. Interesting. Now, on the international front, the U.S. and several allies demanded an immediate 21-day ceasefire in the escalating fight between Israel and Hezbollah in Lebanon. Quote, the situation between Lebanon and Israel since October 8th of 2023 is intolerable and presents an unacceptable risk of a broader regional escalation. This was a joint statement released by the U.S., Australia, Canada, European Union, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and the United Kingdom and Qatar. This is in nobody's interest, neither the people of Israel nor the people of Lebanon. The statement continued, it's time to conclude a diplomatic settlement that enables civilians on both sides of the border to return to their homes in safety. Now this is, and they're calling for a 21-day ceasefire. The statement follows that massive multi-day bombing campaign in Lebanon that has left more than 600 people dead, including several top Hezbollah commanders. It is being reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will welcome this news. The officials noted that they expect Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to welcome the proposal when he addresses the United Nations General Assembly on Friday. Now, that'll be interesting to watch that on Friday with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Also on the international front, as we move just a little bit quickly here with all your breaking news, Putin issues a nuclear warning to the West over strikes on Russia from Ukraine. This coming out yesterday that Russia could use nuclear weapons if it was struck with conventional missiles, and that Moscow would consider any assault on it supported by a nuclear power to be a joint attack. The decision to change Russia's official nuclear doctrine is the Kremlin's answer to deliberations in the United States and Britain about whether or not to give Ukraine permission to fire conventional Western missiles into Russia. Putin, opening a meeting of Russia's Security Council, said that the charges were in response to a swiftly changing global landscape, which has thrown new threats and risks for Russia. Well, everybody's giving waves this morning. Thank you. The condition for Russia's transition to the use of nuclear weapons are also clearly fixed, Putin said. So threatening nuclear strikes if there are strikes to Russia, on Russia, from the Ukraine. Now, Zelensky was here in the United States, and some are really accusing him and the Democratic Party of foreign election interference. What was Ukrainian President Zelensky doing at what sure looked like a partisan U.S. political event this week? And how did the White House let this happen? Zelensky got flown into battleground Pennsylvania on Tuesday. He then toured the Scranton Army ammunition plant, accompanied by Governor Josh Shapiro, Senator Bob Casey, Representative Matt Cartwright, the last two being active Democrat candidates. And it looks like no GOP candidates got invited, trapping a foreign head of state into apparently taking sides in U.S. domestic policies. And some of the things that he said seemed very political, seeming to support the Harris campaign and to be critical of the Trump campaign. This was not specifically at this event, but in his time here. It says here, Zelensky was guarded by Secret Service agents and driven around in Secret Service vehicles, adding more reek of impropriety. Who covered these expenses? Someone in the Biden administration pulled a fast one. Pennsylvania has a fair number of anti-Russian Polish Americans and others of Eastern European heritage who might be swayed by Zelensky's seeming preference. Legalities aside, this is terrible for Zelensky. Ukraine desperately needs support from Republicans as well as Democrats in Congress, and will no matter who holds the White House next year. Speaker Johnson is calling on Zelensky to fire his U.S. ambassador for letting this disgrace happen, a move that would mend Ukraine's fences if it were. But Congress will need answers on the American side, too. After all, Democrats impeached President Trump over his supposed abuses linked to Ukraine. Now we have the misuse of a foreign guest's visit to influence U.S. politics. We absolutely endorse U.S. support of Kiev against Moscow's brutal invasion, says the New York Post. Vladimir Putin must not succeed. And Democratic candidates have every right to slam those Republicans who want to hang Ukraine out to dry. But dragging any foreign leader, especially one who's seeking now new support for his nation from the White House, into U.S. politics is morally criminal at least. Whether at the White House or the State Department, American heads need to roll over this. So that coming from the New York Post. Your thoughts on Zelensky's visit? Also, because we were talking about Israel and we so often, let me give you one quick update before we go to break. I want to give you a college update because we've talked about the protests and the activism kind of running amok on these college campuses. Well, Jonathan Turley has an opinion piece this morning saying college enrollment and trust are low because the colleges have been caught in a death spiral of liberal ideology. In the 60s, activists on campus often asked, what if they gave a war and nobody came? Social justice warriors today may soon be asking the same question as more and more young people shun higher education. And this is really more of an update because we've talked about a few moving pieces here where younger people are saying, wait, I can go to college, be taught this kind of activism, and then be in debt, a couple $100,000 when I get out and have to struggle to pay that perhaps my whole life until I get a good enough paying job. Or I could go to these different trade schools or go different professions and start and hit the ground running, making good money. And then you add on top of that the the students that did pay, and they're going, wait a minute, now I'm trying to get a job and I hand over my resume and it says Columbia, and they won't look at me because they're afraid I was a part of these anti-Semitic protests, even if I weren't. Well, trust in higher education is plummeting to record lows. According to Gallup, confidence in universities fell to 36% in 2013. Now go back to 2015, it was at 57%. That's a major drop in less than 10 years. Not surprisingly, given the growing viewpoint of the intolerance on our campuses, the largest drop are, you guessed it, among Republicans and independents. There's been a decline in enrollments across the country. From 2010 to 2021, enrollments fell from roughly 18.1 million students to about 15.4 million. Now, there's various contributors. There's various reasons why people may make that decision, but this politicalization and radical activism of college campuses, of course, did not help. One survey found that only 9% of law professors identified as conservatives. The focus at many schools has shifted to degrees in activism, while denouncing math, statistics, the classics, and even meritocracy as examples of white privilege. There's an academic echo chamber that controls publications, speaking opportunities, and advancement with like-minded ideologues. As that circle intensifies, it becomes harder and harder for opposing views to break through. And we've said, it's no problem for a faculty member to go protest with one of these anti-Semitic protests on college campuses. Not a problem at all. It's probably encouraged in most instances. But if you were a conservative and you spoke out, or you invited a conservative speaker and you're on the faculty, that could be very well the end of your career. Because remember, as we've talked about in this program before, these professors want to continue to live in their bubble of yes people being all around them, saying yes to everything and every radical idea they profess. It does not matter that this advocacy journalism is killing the profession. Reporters and editors continue to saw at the limb upon which they sit, meaning that the radicalization of journalism students as well. For reporters, converting newsrooms into echo chambers gives them more security, advancement, and opportunities. In the meanwhile, trust in the media is at record lows, paralleling the polls on higher education. The result is the rise of new media as people turn to blogs and other sources for their news. The same phenomenon is occurring in academia. For those of us who believe in brick-and-mortar educational institutions, we may be watching a death spiral for some universities and colleges as administrators and faculty treat their students as a captive audience for their ideological agendas. So captive that you could not write a report to some of these professors, like the one at was it Cornell, was one of his classes, Socialism in America. Do you think you could write a piece suggesting that socialism in America would be a disaster? No, of course not. They need their echo chamber. They need to live in their bubble. What is clear is that many administrators and departments will continue to bar opposing views and maintain the academic echo chamber. Many have tenure and expect to ride out the decline of their institutions while enjoying the acclaim of being academic crusaders. Of course, it will become increasingly hard to be social warriors if you hold a war and nobody comes. Let's take a short break, and we're going to go to the Harris campaign when we come back. Perhaps the Harris campaign. We may actually go to Congress first. How about we talk about a little bit about Washington here first? But let's take that break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, please stay with us.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring Saltwater Hot Tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Your wallet is always in danger. Criminals can hack your information without you even knowing. Introducing Slim Mint, an ultra-thin RFID blocking wallet that keeps your cards and cash protected. Slim Mint uses the latest RFID blocking technology to prevent thieves from stealing your info. It's ergonomically designed to optimize space and keep your belongings organized. With the auto-locking Slim Mint, your cards and money stay securely in place. It has a built-in cash clip and a flexible outer band to fit your additional cards and cash. Call or click now and get Slim Mint for just $29.99. Order in the next 5 minutes and you'll get an instant $10 discount. So it's only $19.99. But wait, due to rising costs, this may be your last chance to get Slim Mint at this low price. There's a strict limit of 3 Slim Mint wallets while supplies last. Don't wait, order now.
Call 1-800-654-6604. Call or visit slimmintwallet.com. So call 1-800-654-6604. Order now.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for all the comments and all the waves and joining us. We've got a lot to continue with. House passes the spending bill yesterday to fund government until, yes, December 20th. It's going to be a happy holiday season as we have to hear about the next potential government shutdown. As one viewer said just the other day, it's another example of kicking the can down the road. Congress overwhelmingly approved a bill to fund the government until December 20th, averting a shutdown of all federal agencies at 11:59 p.m. on Monday, while setting up another fiscal fight in the lame duck session after the election and just before Christmas. Yes, keep that in mind. It will also be a lame duck session where you'll have some people there that will no longer be there in January if their elections did not go as planned. The House voted 241 to 82 to keep government funding at current levels for the next 3 months, with all the no votes coming from Republicans. Another 132 GOP lawmakers joined 209 Democrats to vote in favor of the measure. Hours later, the Senate voted the funding bill through by a count of 78 to 18, sending it to President Biden's desk. The bill includes another $231 billion in funding for the U.S. Secret Service after 2 assassination attempts against the former president, Donald Trump. Because there's been some questions about the resources with the Secret Service. The funding resolution needed a 2/3 majority to pass the House after Republicans on the Chamber's Rules Committee blocked it from coming to the floor under typical procedures. So this gets a little Washington wonky, but it did have to pass with a 2/3 majority. House Speaker Mike Johnson, who, it's interesting, some have said that this could be near the end for his time as the speaker, but even if that is the case, he's made it pretty good considering the last with Kevin McCarthy and the likes. But because the end of the fiscal year is upon us, said Mike Johnson, and Senate Democrats failed to pass a single appropriations bill or negotiate with the House on an acceptable top-line number for fiscal year 2025, a continuing resolution is the only option that remains. While this is not the solution any of us prefer, it is the most prudent path forward under the present circumstances. As history has taught, and current polling affirms, shutting the government down less than 40 days from a fateful election would be an act of political malpractice. But boy, that December 20th, that's going to be something. Chuck Schumer, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, announced Wednesday morning that an agreement had been reached to pass a so-called clean CR with no poison pill amendments. Poison pill amendment, of course, meaning something that a party will put in there that is a no-go for the other party. Americans can breathe easy because both sides have chosen bipartisanship, said Schumer. Were you, just out of curiosity, were you going to have a problem breathing? Were you not going to breathe easy if there was a government shutdown? Now, I don't like the political implications of it and what we'd do right before election. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong on this. Maybe I'm the outlier. I don't imagine too many people, as they struggle to pay for their groceries, struggle to put gas in the tank, struggling to pay their bills, are overly concerned about the non-essential employees in Washington, and that's the term they use when the government shuts down, not getting paid and not being able to go into work. correct me if I'm wrong. I'd love to hear your opinion. If you say, you know what, never mind my bills, never mind what I have going on in my life, I'm worried about all those bureaucrats and how they're going to make it. And again, when it's finally passed, a continuing resolution or budget, they all get back pay. So I don't know. It's just interesting. I guess if you live, kind of like going back to what we we're saying in college, if you lived that academic life your whole life, you only know one thing. If you've lived your life in Washington, you only know one thing, and that is you got to keep that government running and keep everybody happy. The agreement we locked in last night allows for no poison pill amendments. Americans can breathe easy because both sides have chosen bipartisanship, Chuck Schumer said. Now, Schumer and Johnson had agreed in January to a top-line spending level of $1.66 trillion until September 30th. The White House on Tuesday committed to signing the appropriations bill into law, saying in a statement that it would give the Congress more time to complete full-year funding bills later this year that deliver for America's national defense, veterans, seniors, children, and working families, and address urgent needs for the American people, including for communities recovering from disaster. Representative Thomas Massey, who we quoted on Monday's show when there was questions of whether or not this would go through, I think the deadline was technically on Monday, next Monday, but they said to really get it to where it's operational, it would have to be done, I believe, yesterday. Massey, who sits on the House Rules Committee, claimed in a hearing earlier this week that the Speaker's move would only set up a government funding crisis the week before Christmas to pressure members to vote for another stopgap bill before they could head home and see their families for the holidays. We should fund the whole thing for a year. Wednesday was the House's last day of business, and that's one of the reasons for that deadline. Before members return to their home district for the final stretch of election campaigning, the lower chamber is due back in session November the 12th. Okay, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
You can shave your head in 90 seconds or less.
With no cuts or nicks. It's 100% waterproof.
It even works in the shower.
Introducing Remington's Balder Boss. With increased flex and 5 dual-track floating head design, get over 60% more head coverage for a faster, closer shave and skin-close results.
No nicks, no scrapes. Fit in the palm of my hand, and the results were amazing.
Shave in the shower or with any foam or gel. With Japanese-grade steel blades, plow through the thickest of hair. Anytime, anywhere. There's even a pop-up trimmer to complete your perfect groove. Now, you can try the Remington Balder Boss in your home for 30 days for just $14.99. Complete with a 5-year limited warranty and 100% satisfaction guarantee. You can also get our ear, nose, and brow trimmer free. Just pay separate processing and handling.
Give it a try. You won't be disappointed.
Order your Balder Boss now.
If you love them enough to crawl into a play place to get them to come down, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the right seat to make sure they're in the right car.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple of comments from viewers. Yeah, a lot of people not trusting Chuck Schumer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Let's add that wave there. Shame on the mainstream media and college professors for writing and professing science fiction and fantasy stories and lies and misleading half-truths. They must be frustrated fiction writers who don't have enough patience to write a book. May the winds blow unkindly against the Democrats, and may the road be hard on their feet. Another comment here. If they have to work through Christmas, they have only themselves to blame. Boo-hoo. That's kind of... and that will be the... Well, that's what I'm saying with Chuck Schumer. Rest easy. Breathe easy. We're getting this through. I don't think I know too many people that weren't still breathing easy. They may have other reasons why they're not breathing easy, but the funding of the federal government may not be one of the top priorities of worry. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries has promised Speaker Mike Johnson that the relationship will be governed by 2 rules: no lies and no smack talk. This coming from Axios, far-left Axios, suggesting that they're kind of secret admirers of each other. It's an old-school pledge that has helped the new leaders build trust in a Congress in which it is in short supply, especially among Johnson's own leadership team. It also is the kind of code that demands reciprocity. If the tables are turned in the new Congress and it's Jeffries attempting to lead with a narrow majority. Jeffries has spoken glowingly about his working relationship with Johnson at fundraisers around Washington, multiple sources have said. The rapport is better than one that Jeffries had with former Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The big picture, the House voted on Wednesday, as you know, to avert a government shutdown, as we mentioned, with Jeffries delivering an overwhelmingly Democratic vote to get the bill through the chamber. The House leaders also combined on a bipartisan deal in March to avoid a partial government shutdown. Jeffries, coming to the rescue on government funding, has been helped along by the straightforward relationship between he and Johnson, one of the sources said. Jeffries would make a commitment to not lie or disparage any leader of his opposing conference, is what a source told Axios. While Jeffries is known for his scorching takedowns of Republicans behind the podium and on the House floor, his allies say one of his unsung skills is knowing when to put down his bayonet and cut a deal. All right. Now, speaking of the House, voters in the New York House swing districts. We know New York is, well, it played a major role and actually secured Republicans having the majority in the House in the midterms. And this has put a lot of pressure on Governor Hochul, the same kind of pressure she's experiencing this morning with the indictment of Mayor Adams. And if she calls for it, because she could actually, I believe, make him resign, oust him. But even if he does resign, she gets to make the pick. But anyway, Hochul's in an awkward position there. But she's also in this awkward position where she wants to be the leader of the Democrat Party in New York State. And she's already had one major failure, which is, well, kind of two. She narrowly defeated Lee Zeldin, but because Lee Zeldin did such a great job campaigning for governor, he ended up really making the Republicans take over the House after the midterm. So Hochul is kind of out of favor and being questioned whether or not she is a good leader for the Democrats. Because this is her last chance. If they don't switch up some seats to Democrats, she's not going to be the leader of the Democrat Party. But New Yorkers in critical battleground congressional districts don't like Governor Hochul, which could make her a political liability for Democrats in the upcoming races that could determine control of the House of Representatives. A set of revealing new polls have found, again, that she's not popular in some very important battleground congressional districts. It was conducted by McLaughlin and Associates for GOP candidates. And so keep that in mind. And again, I'm not a big believer in polls, but it's worth mentioning in this scenario. Found that more than half of potential voters in 3 key Empire State districts covering the Long Island, Hudson Valley, and Syracuse regions have an unfavorable view of the governor. Quote, Hochul is extremely unpopular with all voters in key battleground congressional districts, and she has exceptionally high negatives among the all-important independent voter. This was in a memo to the Mike Lawler campaign. In the lower Hudson, well, I don't want to go through all the numbers and all the areas, but there are 3 very important battleground districts where Hochul is viewed extremely unfavorably. That has implications for November, and it has implications for her future, not as governor, but future as a Democratic leader. I mean, she did get an opportunity, didn't do a great job. I'm not the one saying that. Many in the media said did not do a great job at the Democratic National Convention. Well, the discouraging results have Democrat strategists saying their party's candidates would be foolish to invite her to stump with them during the final stretch before November 5th. It's not likely the Democrats will invite Hochul to the district, but the Republicans might, said Democrat political consultant Hank Shimkoff, who has worked on campaigns for congressional candidates as well as former President Clinton. If I were advising a Democrat candidate, I'd say don't see us for a while. Come to the victory party, he quipped. Lawler and other Republicans also rubbed Hochul's nose in it, especially after the governor boasted she and her team are overseeing the Democrat Party's get-out-the-vote effort in House districts to defeat them. This is what Lawler had to say. It's no surprise that Governor Hochul has one of the worst approval ratings in America. It's all thanks to her total inability to lead the state of New York. From a state budget that's ballooning out of control to migrants and criminals roaming the streets of New York City, Kathy Hochul has completely and utterly failed the people of New York time and time again. And in 2026, she'll lose her job for it. Lawler, who is considered, I don't know if you know much about Mike Lawler, but is considered a potential good gubernatorial challenger to Hochul. Interesting. Hochul's campaign declined to comment to the Post, and the campaigns themselves, most did not respond. But voters in New York House swing districts are sour on Governor Kathy Hochul. And if you are just joining us, speaking of New York and New York issues, specifically in this case, New York City, Mayor Eric Adams has been indicted, which shockingly is the first time a New York City mayor has been indicted, which I thought was a really interesting note. We do have to take another break. A few more things about the House here, and then we're going to jump right into the campaigns. There's just so many things to talk about with the House averting a government shutdown, with Mayor Adams indicted, which does have national implications. Do you think that this pushes Cuomo over the edge to run for mayor? There's speculation he wants to run, but wouldn't run unless Adams drops out. I don't know. You could tell with the speeches he's given, the interviews he's giving, he's got the itch to get back into politics. Now, does that mean mayor? I'll ask you. You tell me. We'll take your comments after this. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hesselson's Hot Spring Hot Tub Sales Event is going on now. New technology, cleaner water, easy to use, hot water made simple. Hesselson's, your locally owned and operated hot spring hot tub store since 1955, is offering huge incentives on their saltwater hot tubs. Deluxe lifters and steps, Bluetooth music, freshwater IQ, plus 0% interest-free financing options. Come to Hesselson's today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's Hot Spring saltwater hot tub. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Corning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Frankly Speaking. A couple comments from viewers. Oh, I got a nice wave here with Forrest Gump sending me a wave. That's funny. Thank you. All right. What is going on? First, Governor Hochul has a Chinese spy in the administration, and now the Democrat mayor, Eric Adams, out of New York, and it's alleged. All of this is alleged. He says it's being persecuted. He's being persecuted over the migrant crisis. But what the sources are telling the Post and the New York Times, that the charges are believed to be connected to allegations of the Turkish government illegally funneling money to his mayoral campaign. So Turkish government, Hochul with an alleged Chinese spy. Yeah, what is going? That's the $1 million question. Another comment from a different viewer. If Congress cannot agree on a budget, no one in Washington should be paid and forced to stay in session and work it out without pay or perks. I have a feeling that would speed the process along, wouldn't it? I don't think you'd see so many knockdown dragouts over the budget, or at least it wouldn't get down to the wire in that scenario. Now, we talked about the polling showing that Governor Hochul should stay away from Democrat candidates running in battleground districts for Congress because she's not popular. Now, Elise Stefanik, who's really made a name for herself, she was at one point on the short list for VP for Donald Trump. Representative Elise Stefanik, the highest ranking GOP woman in the House, is leading a charge to break the record for Republican women serving in the chamber. Just 6 years after a blue wave wiped out their ranks, Stefanik, who chairs the GOP conference, has been focused on boosting the ranks of Republican women in the House ever since she sounded the alarm about the crisis level after the 2018 midterms, when the number of GOP women dwindled to just 13. In the nearly 6 years since then, Stefanik and others have worked to recruit and provide early support to women candidates. The number of Republican women in the House has tripled to a record 36, including 2 non-voting members. This time, any gains could help the GOP grow from its current narrow majority, which has been plagued by disagreement and infighting, to a more robust governing majority next year. It's a model that has worked effectively, and it's going to be a model that works effectively this time, Stefanik said. We would love to see a new record set this cycle, but we aren't taking anything for granted. Republicans owe the House majority to Republican women who have flipped battleground districts, and Winning for Women Action Fund Executive Director Daniel Burrow said that the WFW Action Fund is working hard to defend and flip more of them in November. So an honorable goal there, at least Stefanik. If anybody can do it, it's her. Very known for her campaigning, known for her fundraising ability. We do have... Well, we're going to talk about we're out of time. We're going to talk about the presidential campaigns in the next hour, a couple of state issues as well. We've been talking a lot about state issues, international and state. So appreciate everybody commenting. A lot of comments coming. So keep them coming in. Also, if you're new to the program, you see the number on the bottom of your screen. You can reach out and weigh in. What do you think of the poll numbers with Stefanik? With Governor Hochul? What do you think about Eric Adams' resignations? I know that's New York City. Not resignation, indictment. I know that's New York City, but national implications and, of course, statewide implications as we could be looking at the comeback of former Governor Andrew Cuomo. So keep that in mind. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think he'll run for mayor? Also, what were your thoughts on the averting of the government shutdown? And we've had a lot of comments saying basically then you shouldn't get paid. I like that comment, meaning the politicians. But it does set up a fight in a lame duck session right before Christmas on December 20th. So that is going to be an interesting time of year and not necessarily something you probably want to be talking about around Christmas time, but nonetheless, it will be talked about extensively. But we got to go. We have 1 hour left together. The first hour in the books, hour number 2 in mere moments. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Hear that? That's the sound of your life. Perfectly imperfect. But every time you drive after drinking, the music gets drowned out. Your life sounds pretty great. Don't let a buzz ruin it. Buzzed driving.
And welcome back to Frankly Speaking. This is hour number 2. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Frank, could it be that Hakeem Jeffries, has an ulterior motive for the kind words about Johnson? And if you're just joining us, the idea is that they were kind of the odd couple, but they're willing to work together type deal. And that he talks about how much he enjoys their professional relationship, meaning Hakeem Jeffries does at various fundraising events. Possibly is he trying to seed the idea that Johnson is easy to manipulate, so someone will call for his removal, which could lead to Jeffries being named speaker. That's a very fair point, Ken. Very astute of you. That could very well be why that was planted, because where was it planted, or where was it released to? Axios. So there may be something there now. Hakeem Jeffries, it was at one point thought when it got so contentious with the vote for speaker that he may, when the smoke clears, end up being the speaker, even though Republicans had a majority, because it was thought that maybe some Republicans would get so fed up with the system and how it was going that they'd finally say, okay, we'll side with you Democrats, kind of one of those more moderate groups of Republicans saying, okay, we'll side with you, and it'll be Jeffries just to send home a message. So you're not too far off the mark, Ken, but I don't think we'll ever know if it was actually a kind of a planted thing, though it does raise some red flags. One other, and I know that Congressman Nick Langworthy was outspoken on this sometimes back, and that was about stocks in Congress and what the congressional members can buy and sell and trade and these type of things. Well, Paul Pelosi, Nancy Pelosi's husband, has made yet another brilliant stock trade, selling shares of Visa valued at between $500,000 and $1 million less than 3 months before the feds hit the credit card company with antitrust charges. Guess being married to one of the most plugged-in politicians in America has its perks. Does anyone believe Pelosi is making these lucky calls entirely on his own? Look at his history. From 2007 to 2020, Paul raked in as much as $30.4 million from trades in Facebook, Google, Amazon, Apple, and Microsoft, even as rumors flew that Nancy was slow-walking efforts to regulate these firms. In 2020 alone, the Pelosi's investments beat the S&P by nearly 15%. Meanwhile, the then Speaker stalled an effort to toughen rules around members of Congress and making stock traders, outright quashing a March 2020 bill on the issue. But even if it says here, at this point, the burden of proof is on Pelosi to prove she and Paul are clean. But even if this is a case of smoke without fire, it still stinks. The appearance of of this kind of scandal further erodes the trust of Americans not married to a member of Congress. It's another actual threat to democracy, in other words. Bill after bill has come forth trying to clean up this mess with bipartisan backing. It's time for Pelosi and everyone fighting against reform to let the sunlight in. All right, so there's all your updates on the House. Now, Kamala Harris gave her first solo interview as candidate for president with a major news outlet. It was, as we had guessed, it would be MSNBC. Now, she did refuse to explain how she intends to pay for her pricey economic plan if Republicans in Congress block her proposed presidential agenda. So this is somewhat breaking news, unless you were watching MSNBC. If you can't raise corporate taxes, or if the GOP takes control of the Senate, where do you get the money to do that? Do you go for those plans, and do you still go for those plans and borrow, meaning borrow the money for what she's pointing to in her agenda? This was a question by Stephanie Ruhle. Kamala Harris responded, well, but we're going to have to raise corporate taxes, without explaining how she intends to do that without congressional support. We're going to have to make sure that the biggest corporations and billionaires pay their fair share. That's just it. It's about paying their fair share. And we know that is a common refrain, paying your fair share. It comes up every election cycle. So nothing new under the sun. When Ruhle asked Harris how she would ensure that businesses hit with corporate tax hikes don't leave the U.S., the vice president claimed that CEOs are supportive of her plan to raise the corporate rate from 21% to 28%. She said, well, listen, I work with a lot of CEOs. I spend a lot of time with CEOs. I'm going to tell you that the business leaders who are actually part of the engine of America's economy, agree that people should pay their fair share. They also agree that when we look at a plan such as mine, that is about investing in the middle class, investing in new industry, investing in bringing down costs, investing in entrepreneurs like small businesses, then the overall economy is stronger and everyone benefits, she added. Now, Harris's proposed economic agenda, which includes measures to dole out $25,000 to first-time homebuyers and give up to $6,000 in tax breaks for families who have a child in their first year of life, comes with an estimated price tag of $1.7 trillion, according to the analysis from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Government. Wow, that committee's tasked with a lot, huh? Harris later talked past a leading question from Ruhle about how she would address price gouging without implementing price controls, because that has been one of the criticisms, even by some Democrats at the time, saying when your opponent calls you essentially a communist, price controls are probably not the best foot forward, your first policy decision. This is, and Harris must watch, frankly speaking, because she says, so just to be very frank, I'm never going to apologize for going after companies and corporations to take advantage of the desperation of the American people. Calling her proposed federal ban on price gouging on food and groceries part of a much more comprehensive plan on what we can do to bring down the cost of living. She also dodged questions regarding lifting the state and local tax deductions for federal taxpayers and the International Brotherhood of Teamsters' refusal to endorse her, which a refusal by the Teamsters to endorse her is essentially an endorsement of Trump, though they did not, in full disclosure, endorse Trump. She resorted to talking points about the need to fix the nation's broken immigration system and the failed Senate border bill when asked about what she would do to help communities at capacity from taking in migrants. Quote, we need a comprehensive plan that includes what we need to do to fortify not only our border, but deal with the fact that we also need to create pathways for people to earn citizenship. She provided no answer for how she would deal with cities burdened by the influx of migrants. There were quite a few word salads that are being criticized in the media this morning. One, for instance, I'm going to, and I say this in all sincerity, he's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues, talking about former President Trump. And one must be serious and have a plan, and a real plan that's not just about some talking point ending in an exclamation at a political rally, but actually putting the thought into what will be the return on the investment, what will be the economic impact on everyday people. At one point, Harris leaned on the word holistically to get through an answer about bringing down housing costs. Quote, some of the work is going to be through what we do in terms of giving benefits and insistence to state and local governments around transit dollars, and looking holistically at the connection between that and housing, and looking holistically at the incentives we have in the federal government and what they could create for local and state governments to actually engage in planning in a holistic manner. She also gave a repetitive response when Rule asked her to respond to Americans who don't support her policy proposals, saying, if you have a dream and the ambitions and the aspirations of what I believe you do, you're in my plan. You know, I have to tell you, I really love and I'm so energized by what I know to be the spirit and character of the American people. We have ambitions, we have aspirations, we have dreams. And she did not offer any new policy proposals at any point during the interview. But again, not a surprise going to MSNBC. This was what was speculated early on. You're going to go to a friendly outlet. That's what she continues to do, like the Oprah interviews and the like. Because and the local outlets. Because when she does a local outlet, like at a rally, she's not going to get pushback. Not that MSNBC's Rule really did a lot of pushback, but enough that you saw a few times where she fell into the word salad that have come up so often. And again, avoiding really the difference or trying to explain the difference between price gouging and price controls. Not being able to answer that, which to many have been a major concern from the beginning, that was one of her policies, talking about going after price gouging when others see it as what is a failed approach, which is price control. So not giving the differences between her price gouging plan and price controls. Also, to just prove that, well, no, we got to take a break. But I will prove when we come back that why you go to a friendly outlet, which comes as no surprise, but why she would go to an MSNBC and not, listen, Trump and Vance and their surrogates have to go to hostile territory. That's just the nature of the media when it comes to being a Republican candidate. But Harris has been able to kind of cherry pick where she wants to go. And MSNBC was her first jump at it right out the gate for a campaign that's been going on for months and is short and truncated campaign. But going on MSNBC should come as no surprise. But we're going to take that short break. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. Did you catch the interview? Have you watched it since? I'd like to hear your thoughts. Also, if you are just joining us, we not broke the story, it's breaking news in a way, on the program this morning that the government has Washington has averted that government shutdown. Mayor Eric Adams out of New York City has been indicted. First time a New York City mayor has been indicted in that way. So pretty remarkable there. So those are the two major stories this morning. Feel free to weigh in at any time. We got to take our first break of the second hour, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Wow. You found it.
I did.
The History of Water Part 6? I've been dying to read this.
I know, honey.
I always wanted that book.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install one of our high-efficiency water softeners, we're thinking about hard water and limescale buildup, so you can just think about longer-lasting appliances and softer skin and hair. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm Mary. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
I'm Jonathan Lawson. If you're 50 to 85, please listen closely. The lock I want to talk to you about isn't the one on your door. It's a rate lock for your life insurance that guarantees that once you're insured, your rate can never go up at any time for any reason. Many policies you see don't have one, but you can get a lifetime rate lock from Colonial Penn. This plan was designed for people on a fixed income with coverage options that start at $9.95 a month. That's less than 35 cents a day. Your rate is locked in for life. Coverage can never be canceled, and your acceptance is guaranteed. You cannot be turned down because of your health. See for yourself. Call for an information kit and gift. Both are free with no obligation.
Call 1-800-781-9990 for your free information and your free gift. That's 1-800-781-9990. 1-800-781-9990. Call now.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. So many comments coming in. How about this one? My thoughts regarding Cuomo. Now, if you're just joining us, Mayor Eric Adams indicted out of New York City. So now there's speculation that former Governor Cuomo may get involved in that race and run for mayor. So this viewer saying my thoughts regarding Cuomo are not good. His dad drove businesses out of New York State, and he was shown to have the same issues as his father. High taxes, anti-small business, given the extravagant hike in minimum wage, and so on. Yes, a very good point. Thank you. Also, we had the somewhat breaking news that is being reported that he inappropriately kind of badgered, for lack of a better term, intimidated maybe a witness before that congressional hearing on the COVID deaths, the nursing home deaths that are so tragic and we need to get to the bottom of, where he has stonewalled. He is now allegedly intimidated witness. Also, of course, he has never once taken any responsibility for that. But back to Vice President Harris's first solo interview with a major outlet on MSNBC. There's a reason why she went to MSNBC. On MSNBC's Deadline White House, Stephanie Ruhle discussed her interview with Kamala Harris. That's who did the interview, Stephanie Ruhle. And say that Harris didn't want to get deep on what they're going to do, what her plan is on tariffs. So much like the reason why, and I mean, I think this is just campaign. This is just her campaign, why she likes to do the local interviews, knowing that she won't get pushback. She knew that she wouldn't get pushback from Ruhle, and Ruhle, for all intents and purposes, said it. Trump's plan would be economically disastrous, Ruhle said. But it's tricky because President Biden has some on the books. He's potentially looking to do more. But what Kamala Harris is really talking about, right? The idea for tariffs. Or when Trump gets on the podium and talks about it, he's talking about bringing back American jobs and bringing back American manufacturing. You've got to get real because tariffs are only going to hurt this country. And while he's saying it to an audience, that same audience has Amazon boxes outside their front door, and we've been accustomed to the way that we live. But they are bringing manufacturing back. So why she didn't want to get deep on what they're going to do, what her plan is on tariffs. So while she didn't, I want to repeat that. So while she didn't want to get deep on what they're going to do and what her plan is on tariffs, they do have a serious plan as it relates to manufacturing. If you think about the big economic legislation that has been passed in the last 4 years, we have actually seen billions of dollars being put to work, thousands of jobs being created, many of which are in red states and red counties, bringing manufacturing jobs back. Now, they're not the old manufacturing jobs, they're new manufacturing. In total, she's laying out a detailed economic plan, except for that she didn't want to get deep into that plan. Thank you for the wave, by the way. So as many have said, that she struggled to answer the economic questions, and having some of those, and listen, all candidates have it, but having some of those ticks, if you will, going with certain, like the word salad that people mention so much, but also some of the crutch words that she uses. Rule did her best to help her along in the interview. Kristen Fleming, who writes for the New York Post, says that Harris does a solo interview with a national reporter, and surprise, it's with MSNBC's Stephanie Rule. Wow, look at all this. All these waves coming out. What am I missing? There was no real insight on how she will govern if elected. On Real Time with Bill Maher, she argued with New York Times columnist Brett Stevens, defending Harris for dodging media scrutiny because, quote, Kamala Harris isn't running for perfect, Rule said at the time. She's running against Trump. We have two choices. And so there are some things you might not know her answer to. And in 2024, unlike 2026, for a lot of the American people, we know exactly what Trump will do, who he is, and the kind of threat he is to democracy. And with those statements, Stephanie Rule revealed that she's a high-ranking member of the Harris campaign. Well, yeah, I mean, that passes for reporting. That passes for someone that will interview Harris, because why wouldn't Harris? This is how she's running her campaign. Why would she not go to a friendly outlet like that? Rule declared herself a journalist against journalism, signaling to Harris that the seat across from her was a soft place to land. It's embarrassing for both Rule and Harris and should be a massive red flag to undecided voters. Harris only goes where the water is warm. She only speaks to friendly faces who won't press her on that spontaneous political conversation, from far-left senator vowing to ban fracking and supporting federal prisoners getting sex exchanges to a champion of the working class. How those switches came about. Harris is simply unwilling to be tested. And her team, along with people like Rule, are giving her the protection of an elite offensive line. And remember, it only has to continue this way for a little over a month. That's the important point to remember. How can she, well, we'll take a step back. Sure, the bubble wrap strategy is great to sell brat and joy merchandise, but it won't inspire confidence when she has to do the actual job, especially as conflicts continue to mushroom in the Middle East. How can she go toe-to-toe with Putin or China's Xi Jinping or other hostile powers when she's unwilling to answer tough questions? She's so uncomfortable and out of depth, she's even dodging, and I think there's something to be said here, dodging the Al Smith dinner, which is meant to showcase a candidate's humor and kind of likability, if you will, their humanity. To be able to take it, dish it out, and take it. She is, as Cardinal Dolan ominously noted yesterday, the first presidential candidate to skip this since Walter Mondale in '84. Last week, CNN's Brian Stetler assured us Kamala Harris is doing more press interviews if you look closely. That's an interesting way of putting it. If you look closely, that must be some press. In the piece, her spokesman, Ian Sams, has painted the strategy as progressive and forward-thinking. They aren't bowing to tradition, but recalibrating for the shifting media landscape. Harris is going where people get their news. In every setting, she's taking questions, often tough ones, about her plans and agenda. If she is meeting people where they get their news, why do we have to look closely for it all? So far, she and Tim Walz sat down with CNN's Dana Bash in pre-taped softball chats where Bash couldn't wipe the smile off her face. Harris did one interview with local ABC affiliate, a friendly NABJ panel, and of course, her live stream pep rally with Oprah Winfrey. The same special where Oprah introduced Harris in a long guttural call, sounding like Michael Buffer ushering Hulk Hogan to the ring. This is working class heroes Julia Roberts and Jennifer Lopez cheered her on. Rule is an establishment elite. this is Kristen Fleming, who sneers at working stiffs who generally want to vote based on kitchen table issues. I have many problems with Trump, Kristen Fleming says, specifically his lack of discipline, but none of them include his willingness to engage with people, friend, or foe. He and J.D. Vance have been sitting down for long-ranging chats with podcasters and reporters. They've held press conferences, and Vance is a regular presence on Sunday morning shows. And then there's Harris, who is dodging combative interviews and has shown us all we need to know. I thought that was interesting. Brian Stetler saying Kamala Harris is doing more press interviews if you look closely. All right, we got to take another short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking, right here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We'll be right back.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance. Plus, stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel better, my back feels better. It makes me feel stronger too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
How many times have you tried to clean a stubborn mess but end up with no success? What you need is the all-new waterproof Ruby Horsepower, the new cordless and rechargeable power scrubber that cleans faster and easier, guaranteed. Watch, baked on oven grease is no match. It blasts away dirt and grime in no time. The power comes from our rotating brushes, spinning at 350 RPM. The incredible torque fights calcium, mildew, mold, and more. Take it in the kitchen, where it busts through caked-on crud, or outside and tackle tough tasks with ease. Get your Ruby Horsepower with 4 additional attachments, all for just $39.99. Great news! They're in stock and ready to ship. Due to high demand, only 2 per order. Order now.
Call 1-800-980-2344. That's 1-800-980-2344, or visit horsepowerscrubber.com.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. I'm your host, Frank Acom. This is Frankly Speaking. This is, speaking of Harris, that we talked about with her first interview, specifically with MSNBC, with Stephanie Ruhle, her first one-on-one interview. It went exactly as suspected. First I had a comment, though. Hold on. Comment, I would assume that Harris's plan to control price gouging would allow Pelosi and other lawmakers to be even more profitable in the market. Thank you very much, viewer. But we mentioned a few weeks ago, was it already, where Tim Walz, Vice President of Canada, I should say, Tim Walz, saying that hey, we can't go back to the last 4 years, something like that. Again, making it sound as if the problem has been the Harris campaign. Vice President Kamala Harris faced ridicule on social media after she called for Americans to move from the, quote, failed policies that we have proven don't work. This was at her policy speech at the Economic Club of Pittsburgh. Harris emphasized her middle-class upbringing, which is a common refrain. As a matter of fact, J.D. Vance took a jab at Harris over that. Oh, thank you for the waves. And she pledged to build a strong middle class with proposals she's rolled out in recent weeks, like increasing the tax break for new small businesses and giving a $25,000 credit to first-time home buyers. Quote, when the middle class is strong, America is strong, and we can build a stronger middle class. The American economy is the most powerful force for innovation and wealth creation in human history. We just need to move past the failed policies that we have proven don't work, and like generations before us, let us be inspired by what is possible. Harris's comment about moving past failed policies drew jokes from some political commentators on social media who found her statement ironic since she's the incumbent vice president. It's almost as if they want us to forget that. That seems to be one of the campaign lines. Scott Jennings from CNN saying that 12 out of the last 16 years, the White House has been controlled by Democrats. So when you say moving past and these type of things, it's somewhat ironic. What Steve Cortez from Fox News said, acceptance is the first step. Many others having comments similar, suggesting that could be made into a Trump ad. Seth Dillon writing, Kamala Harris says we need to move past the failed policies that don't work. She's telling you to vote for Trump. Listen to her. Representative Troy Nallis from Texas said, you're right. The American people are sick and tired of the Harris-Biden administration's failed policies. November can't come soon enough. And so many other comments. Okay, so J.D. Vance took an apparent jab at Harris, always saying she's from a working class family. That's been her line over and over again when she was dodging a question. Who was it with the other day? I can't remember. That was her line, that I'm from a working class family and people really like their yards where I'm from, but not giving substance as to how really, with so many people suffering, no matter how many news articles there are that said you shouldn't be suffering, we still get our grocery receipts. We still put our card in to get gas, and we see how much it costs. But speaking to a group of supporters, J.D. Vance mentioned he also grew up in a working class family, saying, now, look, a lot of you know my story, and a lot of you know where I came from. Look, I grew up in a working class family. And so when Kamala Harris talks about her middle class background, when the Democrats talk about how they stand for working people, they're not telling the truth. They're lying to you. This is J.D. Vance. Here's how we know they're lying to you. Remember back a few years ago when there were a lot of nurses, a lot of people in a lot of industries that were losing their jobs because they refused to take the COVID shot? Now, I believe if you want to take the COVID shot, take the shot. If you don't want to take the COVID shot, don't take the COVID shot. But listen, it is disgraceful for Kamala Harris to say that she stands for the American working man, who she fired millions of American working men and women from their jobs for not doing what Kamala Harris would tell them to do. I don't know if you saw the news, but Kamala Harris has decided to give her first solo national interview. I've watched a couple of these interviews, local journalists with Kamala Harris, and I've realized why it is that Kamala Harris doesn't give interviews. And the answer is, every time she answers a question, I think we gain about 100,000 votes, me and Donald Trump. They asked Kamala, of course, because she's the vice president, and she is the reason why we have sky-high inflation and a wide open border. What are you going to do? What is your specific plan to solve the inflation crisis that's making it unaffordable to buy groceries and housing? And Kamala says, well, do you know that I grew up in a middle-class family? I had a very nice lawn back there in Berkeley, California. It's like, well, that might be true. What does that have to do with lowering inflation? Or they'll say, Kamala Harris, we've got a war in every new continent across the country. Kamala Harris, your administration has in some ways led to these policies that caused this conflict. How are you going to solve it as president of the United States? And Kamala Harris will say, well, did you know I worked at McDonald's for about 3 months when I was a teenager? Wow, J.D. Vance not pulling any punches. Now, actress, if you are one of these people that choose your candidate based on celebrities, we were told, and I still think there's implications, don't get me wrong, but the Taylor Swift's endorsement would be the biggest deal in the world. Taylor Swift endorsed, obviously scheduled right after the debate. Did not seem to get the bump that Harris expected. But now actress Jennifer Lawrence, you may recall her. She was on People magazine, and they asked her about the race. She was in Hunger Games. She was in some other things. She said, I'm voting for Kamala Harris because I think she's an amazing candidate. And I know that she will do whatever she can to protect reproductive rights. That's the most important thing, is to not let somebody into the White House who is going to ban abortion, which is obviously misleading. Women are dying, Lawrence said. And suggesting that her newest film project could enlighten people's idea of what abortion is and why certain people need abortions, and why it's so important to keep lawmakers out of families and out of people's doctors' offices. These laws are made by random white men, and they're not made by healthcare providers. So Jennifer Lawrence has added her endorsement of Kamala Harris to the mix. Now, Kamala will visit. This is a big story that we brought to you yesterday, but kind of a little more detail here. Kamala Harris will visit the U.S.-Mexico border for the first time as a candidate. It'll be at a campaign rally, during a campaign rally in Arizona on Friday. This is according to the Associated Press. Harris has faced repeated calls for her to visit the border, with Republicans blaming her for the rise in illegal border crossings over her tenure as vice president. Harris has last visited the southwest border in 2021 in El Paso, Texas, and if I'm not mistaken, that came at the same time that she was receiving pushback for not doing enough. That's when they still called her border czar. Now we're told that they were all inaccurate this whole time and that she wasn't the border czar. The Democratic presidential candidate's main policy on immigration is to bring back the bipartisan border bill, which was halted earlier this year when former President Trump came out against it, seeking to keep the issue in the national spotlight through November. So that's her only plan, but she will be attending a rally in Arizona and visit the U.S.-Mexico border for the first time since 2021. I see a lot of comments coming in. Speaking of illegal immigration and the open porous borders, this is just an update from Aurora, Colorado that we had mentioned on the program, or someone, an astute viewer, brought to our attention. Aurora, Colorado, it's that Denver suburb that has big city problems. The migrant gang Tren de Argua, I don't know, I'm sure not pronouncing that right, has moved in, is taking over apartment units and engaging in shootouts. You've seen the videos of them taking over these apartment complexes. Business owners are complaining that retail theft has surged, forcing them to shell out for private security. Now the city of $390,000 is having to pay up, increasing the budget for the Aurora Police Department by $10 million next year to hire more cops as it deals with crimes spilling over from the sanctuary city next door in Denver. Aurora has allocated 30% of next year's budget to law enforcement, over $165 million in total, according to city officials. Wow. But again, we are told to kind of look the other way on these issues and not accept what you see with your own eyes. So a couple... Yeah, I think we're going to move along here. Well, there's one other thing about Harris that we'll get to after this break. And then we're going to get to the Trump campaign, some other issues as well. So stay with us and read your comments. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, we will be right back.
Our water's better tasting. It's better for the planet.
That's great, sir. Can I take your order?
Oh, number 3.
At Culligan, we get that most people don't think about water like we do, and that's okay. You see, when we install our drinking water and softening systems, we're thinking about filtering contaminants and the minerals that make water hard. So you can just think about softer, cleaner, better tasting water. At Culligan, we think about your water, so you don't have to.
Call today to schedule your free water test.
I'm married. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Hi, I'm Sam. Welcome to Pangea Global Tea House.
Pangea Global Tea House offers comfort foods of the world. Over 50 teas, a sampling of cuisine from over 10 countries. Globally inspired cuisine and striving to give you an ultimate experience. Come in and try the frankly delicious Turkey Club special for just $20, including your beverage of choice. Pangea Global Tea House. Yet a really good tea house bringing you the flavors of the world, offering something for everyone.
Are you 50? Would you like to get up to 33% more income in retirement? Call now and get this free book, Annuity Do's and Don'ts for Baby Boomers, from a leading financial firm on maximizing your income in retirement. And if you call right now, as a bonus, we'll throw in a free annuity rate report. Don't miss out on this opportunity because supplies are limited. Both books are yours free, just for calling Annuity General today.
Call 800-354-5972.
It's the
best 2 hours of NFL coverage, starting with Fox NFL Kickoff at 11.
This is great TV.
It is caught! Then at noon, take it to the next level on Fox NFL Sunday.
This kid has it all.
Touchdown! America.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you so much for joining us. Some comments coming in from you, the viewer. Harris is trying to distance herself from her own mistakes and past agenda. Remember, she was part of economic failures and the administration that removed homeless veterans from a hotel in favor of illegal immigrants. Thank you very much. With respect to any, this is a different comment, of course, with respect to any government, if it works, don't fix it. As for progressive, essentially closed-door, joyful politics that Harris represents, it will be more of the same that has been going on for the last 3.8 years. And we all know how detrimental those years have been, perhaps even worse. Thank you very much. Another comment from a different viewer. We only pick our candidates based on Frank from Frankly Speaking. Well, hey, that's awful nice of you. In reference to Jennifer Lawrence endorsing Kamala Harris. Well, thank you. I appreciate you having that type of faith in me. Here's another comment from a different viewer. Frank, it would be nice to see if someone would ask Kamala if she knows the definition of holistic. Yeah, she went really heavy on holistic in one of her responses to Stephanie Ruhle. Also, there's a piece, we don't have time to get to all of it this morning, but if you want to find the substance out for yourself, it's at the New York Post. It's by Matt Palumbo, and it's about Alex Soros, which is George Soros' son. Well, Alex Soros' dinner date with Tim Walz reveals who will really be pulling the strings in Harris's White House. And just to boil it all down, because they did have dinner, this is public knowledge. It is not some type of conspiracy. It boils down to this. To quote Elon Musk, I'd just like to thank Alexander Soros for not keeping everyone in suspense about who the next puppet would be. George Soros had no trouble infiltrating the Biden administration. 17 individuals who work for Soros-linked organizations made their way into Biden's transition teams following the 2020 election, influencing a dozen agencies, including the State Department, the Department of Defense, and the Federal Reserve. Meanwhile, people in the Soros sphere landed in the Biden cabinet, including Ron Klain, Neera Tanden, and Secretary of State Antony Blinken, whose parents are all so close to Soros that an archive was named after them at the billionaire's Central European University. George did that from behind the curtain. Alex's influence will be at least as destructive, and he'll be taunting us the whole time he's doing it. So that's a very interesting piece. Yes, I think I misread, but yes, I'd like to see if anyone could ask Kamala Harris if she knows the definition of holistic. Sorry, yeah, I worded that strange. One other thing is they talk about the economy, and they talk, that she says she's got to fix these problems and the price gouging. Not necessarily breaking news for you, I'm sure you're aware, but egg prices are spiking yet again. Supermarket prices, they say, this is CNN, no longer skyrocketing, except of course if you're buying eggs. Well, I would still say they're not skyrocketing downwards either. Egg prices spiked by 28.1% in August from 12 months ago. That's easily the biggest increase out of any food item tracked by the Bureau of Labor Statistics. The sticker shock in the egg aisle comes even as overall grocery prices are barely budging, up less than 1% in August from last year, and inflation cools across the U.S. economy. But last year was a struggle too for groceries, so I think that's a little misleading how Matt Egan from CNN presents it. The main culprit for rising egg prices is a familiar one, according to them. It is bird flu. Now, even with numbers like that, even with the increase in costs across the board and how people are struggling, even though they tell us we're not. So just keep saying that we're not if you look at their stats. But that doesn't change what happens when we go to the grocery store. Well, billionaire investor Mark Cuban, you're undoubtedly familiar with the name. He was on MSNBC's Deadline. And he said that Trump is a good salesperson. He talks a good game, but that doesn't mean he follows through or gets the job done. That's part of what she has to communicate. I think she's got a good start in doing that and was able to communicate that with Carrier as an example. Look, the starkest difference between the two, Donald Trump wants to threaten companies. We saw him threaten John Deere with a 200% tariff. That doesn't make John Deere's business better. In fact, it makes it easier for Chinese companies to compete against John Deere, even after 10% or 20% tariff. What did Kamala Harris say? She said she's going to incentivize companies to grow and build. She's going to offer tax incentives. She's making it easier to borrow money, the things that make companies grow. One is a hammer and the other is a carrot, right? How do we help businesses grow? That is such a stark difference. So basically what it boils down to, without reading anymore, he's a good salesperson. She's a good CEO. We want to do this right because I'm responsible for my stakeholders, and we need to do it the right way. You could not have a greater difference between the two candidates. That's according to Mark Cuban. Now, many people have been asking, not today, not in today's program, but when the vice presidential debate is set. It is set for October the 1st, coming right up. Well, Fox News spoke with some quote-unquote experts saying what this debate will mean for the race. Christopher Devine, who is actually the author of Do Running Mates Matter, well, he might be someone to go to and ask the question, said the VP debate is usually pretty low profile. They usually don't get as much attention as the presidential debates. Devine suggested that while the upcoming debate will probably result in some viral moments, it won't have the same level of interest or influence on voters as the 2008 VP debate when Sarah Palin stole the spotlight in her matchup with then Senator Joe Biden. Continuing, he said, but the running mate does have what we call an indirect effect on vote choice, and that it influences what people think of the presidential candidate, knowing that Donald Trump could have picked anybody and chose J.D. Vance, or Kamala Harris could have picked anyone and chose Tim Walz, and how they perform on the debate stage. Tevi Troy, a presidential historian and a former George W. Bush cabinet member, said many VP debates are completely forgettable. This year might be different, and it might be different because of the whole Harris-Walz hide-the-ball campaign, where she didn't run for the nomination, so she wasn't scrutinized. Then she's been very reluctant to have any unscripted interviews since then, and when she does, it's usually with a very friendly reporter. And even in the debate against Trump, there's a perception that the moderators were harder on him than they were on her, and that perception is obviously proven by the numbers, even proven by what one of the moderators said, that they had practiced to fact check Trump and not Harris. But I'll continue. Troy said there have been a number of instances where Walz has been asked about her views, and he kind of ducks what her views are, because if they say what she's been in the past, which is pretty liberal, one of the most liberal U.S. senators, then that's not popular and not helpful to her political prospects. But Vance also has a number of things from the past that have surfaced that have led to bad stories, like the cat lady thing, for example, and Walz has been shy about willing to go after Vance and criticize. So with no further presidential debates in the works before November, the running mates will likely be making the final head-to-head case to voters for their respective campaigns. The CBS vice presidential debate airs Tuesday, October 1st at 9 p.m. So that's this upcoming Tuesday. We'll be talking about it quite a bit the next few days, tomorrow and on Monday. And probably on Tuesday too, but definitely on Wednesday to get your opinion. What have you thought about the pick of either Coach Walz or J.D. Vance? Oh, one quick thing on an odd note before we go to another break here. Tommy John. Remember the name Tommy John? Of course, Tommy John surgery, the baseball star, essentially. He's not sure why he's been kept out of the National Baseball Hall of Fame, but he does have an inclination. It's his support for former President Donald Trump. Tommy John, who is best known for his elbow surgery named after him, blamed his choice at the ballot box in 2016 and 2020 for his falling short on Cooperstown ballots over the years. And this should come as no surprise that he would think this way, because Curt Schilling, for instance, isn't in the Baseball Hall of Fame for purely political reasons. This is what Tommy John said. Maybe because I voted for Donald Trump. Probably, I don't know. I have no idea. If I knew I could do something, I would do it, but I can't. After retiring in 1989, John was on the Hall of Fame ballot from 95 to 2009, long before Trump's decision to run for president in 2016, just to be clear. But you can understand why he may think that way after what happened with Curt Schilling. So anyway, we got to take a short break. I found that to be an odd one. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Shedden's Halloween store is now open. Costumes, masks, makeup, wigs, and more. We have indoor and outdoor decorations that are spooktacular. Trick-or-treat candy and Halloween party supplies. We have it all. Make sure to check out our pumpkins, gourds, and beautiful mums. And don't miss our fall and Thanksgiving items, including briarwood doormats and flags. Open every day. Shedden's Halloween store.
Great drivers change lanes very fast, but with no outside mirrors. How come they don't crash? Introducing Angel View, the new wide-angle mirror that reduces blind spots. Angel View simply snaps over your car's rear view mirror, giving you a 160-degree view behind you. Ordinary rear view mirrors are small and flat, but Angel View has a huge mirror with curved glass. This convex shape allows you to see both blind spots with one glance. And with our Pro Edition special coating, it's anti-glare at night. Get your Angel View now for just $19.99 through this special offer. But wait, this may be your last chance to get Angel View at this low price. There is a strict limit of 2 Angel Views per order while supplies last. Order now.
Call 1-800-869-5346. That's 1-800-869-5346. Or visit getangelview.com.
And we are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. We talk about the media bias quite frequently, and CNN has been forced to issue an on-air retraction and admitted to using a digitally altered photograph of former President Trump and right-wing activist and influencer Laura Loomer. I think it was it Anderson Cooper who said Friday evening and on Saturday, CNN aired a number of segments that briefly showed an image of former President Donald Trump and Laura Loomer taken from social media. On review, this image has been digitally altered by a third party and should not have been included. We regret our error. So Laura Loomer tweeted, if you do not issue a retraction in writing on X for showing fake and Photoshop pictures of me and President Trump in an effort to spew a sick, misogynistic, and defamatory attack against me, I will sue you the same way I'm going to sue Bill Maher. How much of a coward do you have to be to use fake pictures to defame me and Donald Trump and then not apologize yourself? Issue a retraction in writing and on air or else you're getting sued. Okay, Trump has, man, we are running late. We have so many comments coming in. Here we go. Let's go to your viewer comments. First one up. Mark Cuban has been a Trump hater since 2016. I think he's a little jealous of the big guy. Interesting way of wording that. I do think there is a jealousy issue with the money. I mean, he brings that up quite frequently. There may be something there. Ken writes, if Harrison Walls win the election, I'll be one of their bosses. I will be one of their bosses. I saw he works on cars. Do you think I can have him tune up my car? It might be all he is qualified for. Well, we'll see. We'll see after Tuesday at 9 p.m. Why they got to be so late? Hey, Trump did officially. I know we had the breaking speculation on Monday's show, but it is now official. Trump will return to Butler, Pennsylvania for a rally. And it will be on October 5th. President Donald J. Trump will return to Butler, Pennsylvania to hold a rally on the very same ground where he came within a quarter of an inch of losing his life less than 3 months ago. In his return to Butler, the campaign said Trump will honor firefighter Corey Comparatore, the 50-year-old father shot and killed during the attempted assassination. Trump had previously announced plans for a big and beautiful rally to honor him and others injured in the shooting. Trump's upcoming rally in Butler, located north of Pittsburgh, is in a key battleground state, and it will come less than 3 months after the July 13th attempt on the former president's life. As we know, we lived that, we witnessed that. And the Trump campaign said Wednesday that the October 5th rally in Butler will also honor law enforcement and first responders in the community. Quote, President Trump will also recognize the 2 other Americans who were wounded by the shooter, David Dutch and James Copenhaver. He will express his deep gratitude to law enforcement and first responders and thank the entire community for their outpouring of love and support in the wake of the attack. A couple other issues on that. Do I have time? Melania Trump called her husband's survival of 2 assassination attempts miracles, describing her anger as well over the FBI raid and a rare television interview. She doesn't give a lot of television interviews, but she was on Fox and Friends. I know she has that book coming out. She said she struggled to comprehend what had happened when she saw her husband on the floor at the July 13th Butler rally after he's grazed by a would-be assassin's bullet. I ran to the TV and I rewinded it and I watched it. When I saw it, nobody really knew yet what had happened. When you see him on the floor and you don't know what really happened. I saw it on television, and as soon as I saw it on television, I called again, and he was okay because Secret Service were great. That's in reference to the second alleged assassination attempt. The former president's golf group, they were fantastic. And I think both of the events, they were really miracles. If you really think about it, July 13th was a miracle. Like that much, and he could not be with us. When asked about her reaction to the August 2022 FBI raid in Mar-a-Lago, conducted as part of the government investigation into her husband's withholding of classified White House documents, she said the ordeal left her angry. Yeah, it made me angry. It was an invasion of privacy. The way it was done was I was really surprised. They went through her wardrobe, combed through her husband's office, and even reportedly searched one of her son Barron's room during the raid. I saw unpleasant stuff that nobody wants to see. And you get angry because, nobody should be putting up with this kind of stuff. Some person, I don't even know who or how many people, they went through my stuff. And we know that she has that book coming out soon. All right, we've got to take a short break. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
If you're on supplemental oxygen, heavy and awkward tanks are a burden. Now you can leave home and leave the tanks behind with Inogen One, the portable oxygen concentrator you can take almost anywhere.
With this little device, now I'm able to do the things that I've always loved. I just press the button here, and there's my oxygen.
The Inogen One is so small and light, you're free to leave the house without the hassles of an oxygen tank.
I could play golf again. I could go grocery shopping. I'm free again.
With the Inogen, I can handle my own oxygen. I can carry my own oxygen. I go anywhere with this. Look how small it is.
And right now, you can try an Inogen One for 30 days completely risk-free. Give us a call right now. If you qualify, we'll send you an Inogen system to use for 30 days completely risk-free. Your insurance may even cover your new Inogen One system.
If you're on oxygen, you need to be using an Inogen.
Call 1-800-929-7290. Again, that's 1-800-929-7290.
Fox College Football Friday and Big Noon Saturday kick off a whole new era of college football.
I cannot wait for this game.
With new matchups, historic rivalries, and brand new conference clashes.
Listen to this crowd come alive.
The Big Ten,
whoa,
Big 12,
unbelievable,
and Mountain West are hitting Friday and Saturday harder than ever.
Monster is hit.
This is the season we've all been waiting for.
And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. Comment from a viewer. Ever notice Trump consistently offers to buy people lunch or whatever, yet Joe has never offered to buy ice cream? I don't know that to be a fact, but I do know, I guess I've never witnessed it, no. But I did see that Trump, we talked about it on Monday's show or Tuesday's show, talked about him giving $100 to the lady buying her groceries, saying, oh, it'll help a little kind of thing. Yes, it is a pretty common thing, buying pizza, buying ice cream and the like. Okay, so the task force on the Trump assassination attempt is going to be hold its first hearing, I should say, on Thursday. Mike Johnson, House Speaker, coming off of stopping the government shutdown. Yes, if you are just joining us, another major story that we talked about all morning. Mayor Eric Adams out of New York City indicted. First time a mayor in New York City has been indicted, which is shocking to me. And what the implications are for Cuomo, and whether or not he will run, former Governor Andrew Cuomo, if he will run for mayor. But Mike Johnson saying they've done a lot of work behind the scenes. They've interviewed dozens of witnesses. They gathered thousands of documents. They've been doing the work to lead up to the hearing. And I know there'll be a lot of interest in that. The American people desire and deserve answers, and the task force is working around the clock to deliver them. The task force was assembled after unanimous approval in the House, a rare feat in today's partisan environment. Its scope was just expanded last week after a foiled second alleged attempt on Trump's life, this time while the ex-president was golfing at his own course. We know that. Witnesses will include Edward Lenz, commander of the Butler County Emergency Services Unit, Butler Township Police Patrolman Drew Blasco, Pennsylvania State Police Lieutenant John Harold, and former Secret Service agent Patrick Sullivan, and the Allegheny County Medical Examiner, Dr. Ariel Goldschmidt. Now, this task force is led by Chairman Mike Kelly and Ranking Member Representative Jason Crow, and has already sent out a flurry of information and document requests to local, state, and federal officials. They hope to get to the bottom of how Thomas Matthew Cooks was able to position himself so close. The communication failures on the day of the event were clearly catastrophic and led to what we saw happen that day. So I anticipate we're going to hear testimony from people who were there, who were part of the process, who can give us information about how those breakdowns occurred, said Representative Laurel Lee, a task force member. There is, we're out of time. If you are curious, Ronnie Ray's put together how the Secret Service failed again and again to stop Trump assassination attempt. from needing drone tech support to missing chance to warn the ex-president. And that was something that I think just came out yesterday, that there was a complete newbie that was working the drone and actually had to call tech support. But he goes through an inexperienced agent, oversees the counter drone operation, where they actually had to call and get training on the phone to operate the drone. Getting Trump off the stage did not even cross my mind. It was said when there was concerns about the guy on the building. Secret agent in charge was out of reach. Radio problems are common at the Secret Service. This is just the beginning. Reports of threats were not passed along. It's about a 10-page document. No visual barriers at Trump rally. And request for counter assault team liaison was denied. But you can find it for yourself at the New York Post. I missed this yesterday. I did not see it, but President Biden forgot he was speaking in Midtown Manhattan Wednesday, and instead welcomed world leaders to Washington, making his latest staggering gaffe after being forced to end his campaign for a second term due to Democratic concerns. Thank you. Welcome to Washington, he said, at the Intercontinental New York Barclay Hotel, about 5 minutes walk north of the iconic Chrysler Building. Biden launched into his speech without missing a beat, suggesting he did not even know he made the mistake. We are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you to everybody who joined us. Thank you for all the comments this morning. We're going to have a busy show tomorrow as well, so I'll ask you to tune in. Don't forget, though, if you are new to the show, wow, did we get up to 22 waves? Thank you very much. If you are new to the show, you can reach out at that number at any time. Text, leave a voicemail. And let us know what you think about the topics of the day. We will be talking more about probably not as much as we did about the presidential debate, but we'll be talking a little bit about the vice presidential debate coming up on October 1st. But we'll have a lot to cover on tomorrow edition of Frankly Speaking and all next week. Folks, we're only just a little over a month before Election Day. Early voting in New York starts relatively soon. It's coming quick. So as always, if you're someone you'd like to see me interview that is running for local office, please let me know. There's a number on the bottom of the screen, but you can also reach out there with all your comments on the issues of the day. And I'm asking you, please join us every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will see you tomorrow morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great day, everyone.